And these people are driving big fucking trucks. I mean, in the case of the rail workers, they're driving trains that end up getting derailed and poisoning entire parts of Ohio.
This massive strike that has just been, I guess, approved would be, voted for would be the correct terminology.
Yeah. So the UPS Teamsters have voted. I'm going to pull this up on my computer too, so that I don't have to like do the old lady squinty thing.
That's good. People don't like, because it gets a lot of nostril shot with the squinty. It's like kind of, they can see your brain, and that upsets a lot of people.
Well, at least I have one. Okay, so the Teamsters have authorized a strike at UPS. Overwhelmingly, 97% of the workers voted to authorize a strike.
That's I'm going to call that the majority.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's like almost as many scientists who say climate change is real. So that's a lot. That's a lot.
I believe that's 99.7%. But
I said it's almost.
Yeah, it's close. It's close.
I didn't say it was.
Yeah.
That's math speak for not quite 99.7%. So that's 340,000 workers, which would make it the largest single employer strike in U.S. history. That is huge. Huge news.
Tell me the wording again. The largest
single employer. So like they're all employed by UPS. So the largest single employer strike in US history, if it happens. So UPS has until July 31st to come to terms with the Teamsters on a new contract. The union's current national master agreement expires then. And if they don't get what they want, which we'll talk about in a minute, what their demands are, then they can go on strike. And that would fuck up a lot, like millions, billions of dollars.
And we'll get into the details in one moment about what it is that they're calling for, why they have grievances. But I just wanted to throw in here that this has to do with the continued wave of worker strength across the country. That the Federal Reserve and the ruling elite are doing everything they can to stomp on, to tamp down, to quash, to squash, to all of those things. They're doing their best. I mean, really, they're throwing us into a recession just to try and stop this thing, which is workers having power.
Yeah. So, well, let me first start by throwing some numbers at you. According to More Perfect Union, and people might have just noticed this in general, UPS raised prices significantly over the past few years, and actually just this year raised it up to 11%, which is a lot. So if you've noticed when you go to UPS that you're paying way more to send some shit, that's why they've hiked up the prices. Now, of course, that means that they're making a lot more money. They made $100 billion last year, and that was $13 billion in profit. So they made revenue, but then, the $13 billion in profit. And meanwhile, many of their workers are homeless, on food stamps. It's kind of like the Walmart, the Amazon aspect of this, right?
Right. We've heard about this with Walmart, where you have full-time employees who are other workers donate canned food for them to have a Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like, how can you be a full-time employee and you can't afford food?
So, and of course, this, just like we saw with the rail companies, I'm not going to say what I'm not going to say.
Railroad workers.
It's
not her forte.
Not saying it.
It's not her wheelhouse or real house, I guess.
You know what, Lee? So this is the similar thing. All these profits went to stock buybacks, like $3.5 billion worth of stock buybacks. It went to the head of UPS, who made like $19 million last year. And they're, at the same time, they're trying to make sure that they're not getting any more union workers, and they're trying to get rid of their union workers and prioritizing gig work. Now, and for folks who don't know, gig work is basically when you are not officially hired by a company. So they don't have to give you any of
Any of the perks?
Well, and like the measly perks, let's be
Yeah.
honest. It's not like you get like free healthcare or anything like that, but like the measly perks that you get for being like an actual full-time employee. So UPS is getting all these gig workers, some of them barely making minimum wage, and yet they get to also go, they get to go on stage and on television and talk about how they have a union workforce and how it's so great, and they have middle-class workers and things like that. And it's all bullshit. The majority of their workforce is now gig workers.
And there's a lot of reasons that gig work is better for the richest of the rich, the ones that run the systems. Yes, paying their employees less, but even to the extent that gig work allows them an easier path to tricking workers into thinking that they're making more than they are. So, there was a study several years ago showing that a large percentage, I think it was like, 12% or something of Uber and Lyft drivers were making $0 when you accounted for the wear and tear on their car. Mm-hmm. So that's not calculated in your average worker. They're out there like, I walked home with $50 today. They don't think I walked home with $50 and I did $45 worth of wear and tear on my car. So it allows them a lot of ways. They can futz with the algorithm, all this stuff, all these ways to make people think they're making more than they're making, to exploit the worker more.
And I was looking up some numbers and some stats, and Finn Masters, who writes a bunch of like financial articles and things like that, found gobbledygook, yes,
the official term.
They found that almost half, 47% of gig workers in the US have full-time jobs. So that means
have other full-time jobs.
Right. So that means that, first of all, a full-time job is not enough to actually survive, which is fucked. But then on top of that, you have the gig economy, which they also found that 29% of people in the gig economy earn less than their state's minimum wage, which should be fucking illegal.
Right.
And that this is like 16.4% of the American workforce is now just gig workers. And 30% of younger adults, 18 to 29, are in the gig economy. So, I mean, we're talking millions and millions of people that are relying on a system, the gig economy, where they might not even be making fucking minimum wage. And of course, again, you get no benefits. There's no healthcare. There's no time off. There's nothing like that. That's the whole point of the gig economy, to bolster the profits of the corporation. And that's exactly what UPS found, because they were looking at Amazon and shit, and they're like, well, why aren't we doing that?
Right.
And they've even, the point is, like, you see these UPS trucks around. The idea is to do away with those and just have people delivering shit out of their own car, which I'm sure you might have seen that with Amazon workers now. They're delivering it out of their own fucking cars. So again, to like the wear and tear on the car, we don't have to give them brakes. We don't have to supply the car, supply them with gasoline and stuff. Like, yeah. And it also means, like, if you don't have a car, you can't get a job, which, how do you get a car if you don't have a job? Like, it creates yet again.
Well, you take out a loan.
Exactly.
The auto loan bubble, that's trillions of dollars.
But so all of that, I'm setting the stage here. It's a shitty stage. It's a very shitty stage. It's falling apart, in fact.
It was built by gig workers in their extra time. Children mainly.
Yeah.
Built this stage.
Exhausted after 2 hours of sleep. They're hammering nails in. So their demands are basically like in 4 different tiers here. One is working conditions.
It's a lot of tiers.
Working conditions. And when I heard this, I was like, this is so fucking dystopian. I can't even. So there's things that you might think, okay, that's just basic, like making sure that there's AC in the trucks and no forced overtime. But how about monitoring? There are driver-facing cameras that UPS installs in their trucks to basically spy on you the entire fucking day.
Right. So you aren't taking a break when you shouldn't be.
You're not you're not checking your phone to see if, like your partner called or if your kid's okay. Like,
And I remember when Amazon was putting these in, or I don't know whether I guess they had put them in some of their trucks. A lot of the drivers were saying, well, look, because we are given no time off and we're expected to make a certain number of deliveries and it's nearly impossible to achieve, most of us are peeing in like bottles. So now that's on video. Now Amazon is selling, you can actually buy them on Amazon, the best of drivers pissing in bottles.
But yeah, it's like, so that's one of their demands, is the working conditions, which includes that very dystopian surveillance system. The other one is no more 2 tiers. Now, there's like a lot of tiers. UPS back in 1982 instituted a 2-tier system where part-time workers got a huge pay cut. And this kind of volleyed back and forth between, like in the mid 90s, they won some better wages for these part-time workers, but UPS has been like pulling the reins on that because, again, you don't have to give them as much money or benefits or anything like that. And now that the gig economy has come, these part-time workers fall into that abyss of lack of funds and lack of benefits. So their point is, we're doing away with this. You have 1 tier. You just have workers. That's it.
We being the workers who want the strike are saying do away with the multi-tier system. Right. The multi-tier system allows UPS it gives them a lot of the UPS, rulers, the UPS CEOs and everything, the board. It allows them a lot of things, such as turning workers against each other. So some workers say, well, I make this much, so we're not going to strike with you because I'm making good money. So you try and split up the workers. It's divide and conquer. And it just gives them a lot more means of control to have a multi-tiered system like that. Also, the ones making more think, well, I have more to lose here. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why it's also so great to see all the Teamsters, 97%, 340,000 UPS workers, and even the ones, again, that are making a good wage, because there are some still that have like been grandfathered into a good wage.
This would be a good time to show the video.
Yes. But that's another thing that makes this so fantastic, is recognizing that solidarity.
So this is more Perfect Union talking about that tiered system we were just mentioning.
It's 446.
No, I like this one.
Some of the drivers get full-time pay and weekends off, while a whole generation of new drivers, known as 22-4s internally at UPS, get screwed.
Drivers are divided into 2. They do the same job, but some of them are under that new contract, and the other ones are regular drivers. And the difference is I believe, even $10 the hour difference.
I mean, there's no difference at all. That's what's, unfair about it. The fact that 22.4 drivers are doing the same exact job. In fact, we're actually working much more, out there, longer hours, delivering higher volumes for such a less pay.
I have to be here from 4:30 to 8:30 in the morning. I have to come in, then I go home. I try to get as much sleep as I can get before I come in the next time, which is 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. that same day, and then go home and get some sleep again. I can tell you that I'm extremely exhausted. Every part of my body is hurting right now. Just the only reason why I come to work is because I need money,
Now, UPS wants all full-timers to work brutal schedules with no real weekend. It also wants to hire more part-timers, which brings us to UPS's dirty secret. The company likes to boast about high wages, but only a small percentage of workers receive it.
Well, I wanted to make sure we got what the dirty secret was. I couldn't cut it off pre-dirty secret. Wow, that's weird. You know what?
Thanks.
That's what you deserve for the way you've been behaving.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was shared. That was a video that More Perfect Union put together, interviewing some folks that work at UPS, and so you hear just how fucked it is. And these are familiar stories. I mean, when I was talking to rail workers,
well done.
Thank you.
Because you left out a word, but still.
You know what? Everyone knows what the fuck I'm talking about, don't they? When I was talking,
you're saying whales were not involved.
They were not.
Okay.
When I was talking to rail workers, this was the same story. I have to be in at the crack of dawn, And then they try to say that it's not a full day work because I go home and get a couple of hours sleep in the middle, and then I come back and do the night shift. And this is like, and these people are driving big fucking trucks. I mean, in the case of the rail workers, they're driving trains that end up getting derailed and poisoning entire parts of Ohio. But in the case of UPS, these people are driving big fucking trucks. It's not like they're gardening and they're just going to cut off one of their thumbs, which would be bad enough. That shouldn't happen. But it's like you are working these people to exhaustion, paying them nothing, giving them no benefits. And then that's not even good enough. Like, you have to endanger the lives of everyone around them at the same time. And this is, of course, another example of how there's no such thing as a vacuum. Like, all of these fights, whether we work at UPS or whether we don't, affect us. Right. And we shouldn't just care because that UPS truck crashed. We should care because we care about human rights. But
forget empathy. You don't have to give a shit about these people. If you want to be selfish about it, all of these things impact you. All of these things, when UPS figures out that they can exploit workers in a certain way, that then trickles down to all the other industries that are like, wow, look what they did. And that's what's happened. That's why UPS is doing this right now, is because they saw Amazon. They looked over there and they said, wow, they're really fucking those workers harder than we realized we could fuck our workers. Why aren't we fucking them that much? And he was like, let's fuck them that much. And that was the entire conversation. It was a whole board meeting about it. So this stuff grows, either the bad or the good. So when workers win these strikes, other workers look over and go, hey, maybe we could stand up and fight back too. So these impact you and all of us in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. So the other demands that the Teamsters have put forward are better pay for the part-timers and make these full-time jobs. Make it so that somebody can have a job and not have to do multiple jobs and, be exhausted and have no benefits. Put everyone as a full-time worker. No subcontracting and no gig workers. Just that's one of their demands. There should be UPS should be a union workforce, is their point. These workers deserve respect. And so these are badass and really, let's be honest, fucking basic demands. Like, they're basically like, hey, don't treat me like a piece of shit.
I know, if you string it all down, it's like, hey, have actual workers that you have hired and that you treat like humans.
Cool.
And the UPS higher ups are like, this is an outrage.
Yeah. So this is what, again, like, we'll see what happens, but the UPS basically has until July 31st to agree to these demands. It doesn't seem like the Teamsters are interested in budging on this. It'll be interesting to see if Biden steps in on this one too and says it's going to be illegal for UPS workers to go on strike.
Which is what they did with the railroad workers.
I'm sorry? What? What?
You're tripping me up. The railroad workers.
Yeah. Well, and this is also interesting with that, because if higher ups like Biden were to step in, and then UPS, as we said in a previous podcast, if UPS workers then call their bluff and be like, okay, fucking make it illegal. There's 340,000 of us. Fuck you if you want your packages. What are you going to do? So
they could kick them in the package.
Nice. This could also precipitate similar strikes. And this is also, again, why these are so vital and why talking about them is so vital, because people in other workforces, regardless of whether you are part of a Teamsters type union or not, then you could actually see this and be like, holy fuck, it is possible not just to organize a workplace, but organize hundreds of thousands of people into demanding basic fucking workers' rights. That's possible. And I saw somebody in the chat talking about a general strike. And I think this is how you get there. You get thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to demand this and say, we will go on strike. And then that shit spreads because people are like, oh, it actually is possible for hundreds of thousands of people to go on strike. That is something that could happen. Yeah. And this will be really rad to see how this plays out. And you know, I think we should all spread this message so that people are aware of this deadline, but also so that people are aware of the power of workplace organizing. This is such a and then, like, again, there's like so many threads to discuss as well, like the creepy fucking surveillance system that workers have to live with. I mean,
which a lot of people have those even if they work on home computers. There's increasing surveillance by corporate entities of like, are you really sitting at your computer 100% of the day? Did you go have diarrhea? Because that's not allowed. Okay.